10 I got, I might have to get 10 more.
You know what? Here's the deal, right? When it comes to your sign, look, she brought a healthy option. When it comes to your signs, right, especially in the neighborhoods that you want to work, your opportunity is to market yourself then. So the more signs you have out, the more sense it makes, right? And that's what matters. So when I have a listing that is in the immediate neighborhood that I'm working, it's very important that I market a lot during that time, right? Very important.
Well, that's true. The more signs, I mean, the more marketing you can do.
That's right.
It just takes more time. You got to give yourself an hour to put them all on.
Yeah. Well, I have sons to do it, so.
Well, you have people. I don't have people.
That's how you get people, though, is you put those signs out. You work hard, right? You work
Well, I
hard.
figure that's the way to get new clients is by do an open house.
Yes, that is. You are correct. So we are working on Chapter 9, Team Uniformity to Team Diversity. And I was sick last week, so my voice might sound a little right now, and I apologize for that. I have been sick and been recuperating and still working in the midst of it all. So, and my kid is sick, so pray for him, please, because he's been sick.
Okay.
So, anyways, any ahas that anyone would like to share right off the bat for Chapter 9 that's super important to them? They liked it, loved it, gotta share it. Anything. Hello out there in Facebook land at KW College Park Group, and hello to all my friends and family and everyone that I know over on my Facebook world. Anyone got anything they want to share specifically, or I'll just get started? Okay, I'll get started. So I like what it says here. Our differences can make a positive difference. How many of you would agree with that? Do you like when someone has a different opinion than you? Oh, thanks for being honest. I appreciate that, sister. Right?
It depends.
Yeah?
Well, it depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I think most of the time people reject a different opinion immediately. Right?
well, if it's a good opinion, then
Yeah. If it's a good opinion, I would agree with you on that. So, what experience in your past revealed your lack of a diversity mindset? Anyone got something they want to share on that? How many of you have had a challenge with a diversified mindset? Think about when you've been in maybe a leadership council meeting, right? Or you've been on a board, right? Or maybe when you were sitting with a client or your spouse or your children, and they had a completely different mindset than you in that moment. How did you respond to it? Did it show, did you notice who you truly were in that moment? People different from me could make a positive difference in me. How many of you could say yes? I love different people. I love.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. You enjoy?
Well, the diversity is never fun, obviously, because you're getting pulled from different directions. But I love the input from many sources because, you can't see everything at face value, but other people can see blind spots or see it from a different perspective that maybe you hadn't even considered before. And that could have been the very aha that could take the whole situation to a different level.
Sure.
So
100%.
to be completely open with it, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you have to have an open heart to receive a different opinion, right? Sure. I really appreciated when John was talking about this particular chapter. I was like, gosh, right? It can be challenging when you're in a group setting and someone has a completely different opinion. And at first you might be like, ah! And then if you think about it for a moment, or you step back from it for a moment, you go, oh, I really appreciate that, right? Like, I thrive on that I'm so bored with people who just agree with me. Like, I love engagement. I love conversation. I love people who like want to challenge me to think differently. Like, I appreciate that, right? I just have to learn to respond to it, receive it in any energy they provide it in a healthy way. Because some people can give you a different opinion and it's very negative. It's very powerful. It's very, like, you're like, you know, you didn't like it. You felt disrespected.
And that's the key, because when they say different opinion, our mind goes immediately to the negative side of it. Because it could be different. That's what I say, it depends. If that different opinion is to try to build you up, to help you to improve, and then you might take it in a different way when they're trying to tear you down and point it out like negatively, and then that's a different scenario.
So I appreciate that, because that's the truth. And I encourage you to open your minds and your hearts wider than that. Okay? Go ahead.
I was thinking, we may perceive it as negative.
Yes.
But it may be that person's intention is not negative.
Correct.
But you already have a judgment because maybe you don't like that person.
Right.
Or you don't like how they speak to you.
Right.
Or, you know, their tone or what have you. But their heart is in the right place. So your perception plays a role in that too.
That's beautiful. Yes. And that's why I encourage you to, every time someone provides you any information, you receive it with an open heart, in any tone, right? No matter the way. I was listening to my One Thing podcast. If you don't listen to it, it's a Gary Keller program. I highly encourage you, Gary Keller Real Estate, obviously. I highly encourage you all to listen to that podcast. And one of the gentlemen that they interviewed on it, he also stated, like, the best way to have a conversation is to start with, my intention here is to build you up, right? Because that will automatically diffuse the situation when you're providing information that might not be something they really truly wanted to hear. And yet if you communicate it in such a way that you're like, I just want to help you, I want to grow you, they'll hear it in a different way. And not everyone has that great ability to speak like that, to be like, oh, you know, and they might just be like, oh my gosh, you should do this. And you're like, what the heck? Right? And you don't like them, right? I mean, we just had that conversation with my marriage coach on Friday. It was marriage coaching on Friday. Right?
How'd that go?
Yeah, it's always great. So the marriage coach, you know, my husband happened to bring up the fact that I had said to him that I was, I said something about, it's your tone, it's the way you're communicating it to me. And he's like, what am I doing? Gabriel told me I need to speak up, so I'm just speaking up. Yes, and it's the tone. But if I step back and I go, you know what? Even no matter his tone, Lori has to receive irregardless. Because my husband's intent is to only love me. So no matter how he's communicating it to me, I need to remember that his intent is always only to love me and not get caught up in the tone, right?
Yeah, but it could be a trigger. Like for me, it triggers a dad moment. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not, 7 years old. You're not going to talk. And he's like, whoa, So, but that all
I did bring up my parents.
Yeah.
I did bring up my parents. Right? So who has come into your life that has opened and stretched your thinking? My husband. What about you guys?
My husband.
Who do you have? Your husband? Who else? Who else?
My coach.
Your wife? Your
My
coach? Who else?
I put my wife,
Your
my
wife?
MAPS coach,
Your MAPS coach?
Sophia,
Sophia?
and you.
And me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. I have lots of people actually in my life who Who stretch me? Amanda stretches me, right? She makes me think like, okay, I have to think because I have to take her into consideration in the business. Amy stretches me. Nathan stretches me. My beautiful daughter-in-law stretches me. Tom stretches me. Even Sophia does, which is kind of interesting because the previous OP didn't have an impact on me. So it's kind of interesting that I feel Sophia's dynamic closer,
Nice.
right? So I think about that, as you think about the relationships that you're in and those people, like the more engaged you are in relationships, the more likely you are to grow, right? My business coach, my marriage coach, man, I gotta fire all these coaches.
Even the most difficult clients, though, stretch you.
All my
I mean,
clients
I like
stretch me.
it, but they do.
All
yeah.
all my clients stretch me. Team definition. A team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, set of performance goals, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. Harvard Business Review. So number 1, diverse teams fill in the knowledge gap. What are you missing because of the lack of diversity?
Different perspective.
Yeah. A different perspective, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it feel good? Thank you. One moment. Wouldn't it feel good if everyone in this room just agreed with us? Wouldn't it
It
feel
would be
good?
boring.
It would be so boring. And yet, when someone challenges us or stretches us to think different, how do we walk away from that circumstances? Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patricia. What did you have?
The first thing I thought about this is like sometimes our limited beliefs, and because sometimes when we start we think, oh, money is so important, so we try to save. So you think that you can do it, and David Hopper once says, "You best got you here." So how are you gonna get here?
Yes.
You have to use diversity and other people
Yes.
so you can break through. Otherwise, you're always gonna stay here.
Yes.
So diversity and open mind and be willing to
Yes.
listen to other people.
Yeah, I love that, right? And give David Halpern the credit for that. He's a business coach that we've had here in many times, right? You are only going to get so far with your own thoughts, your own abilities. At some point, you have to let other people in to move you forward, to grow you out, to stretch you, right? I love that.
And the stretching can be painful at times.
Oh, yes.
Always painful.
Yeah.
No can be.
No, at times. It's just always
It's always painful. Change the way you receive that.
Always painful. Grow is painful. When you grow, but it's a good sign.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that at some point you might believe that growth is a positive thing. Like, I'm always excited when I just love to be challenged, though. So I don't know. I'm different. Diverse teams fill in the perspective gap for number 2. Who on your team is challenging your thinking?
Bless you.
I can say 100% Amanda always challenges it, and I appreciate it. She always does. She brings a different perspective. She always is like, oh, well, this is what I think, and it's completely different, and a lot of times it's because she doesn't come from the real estate world, so she's able to bring in a great, different, totally different perspective. So I enjoy her different opinions, always, like I always do. What about you guys? Do you have anyone?
I have the same people that I listed earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like what John put. He put encourage and engage in conversations that draw out different perspectives.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Right? And that has to do with us, right? And the way that we have a conversation with someone, right? Allowing people to feel safe to communicate a different opinion, right? It's so important that we allow people. We'll be like, what do you think? What is it different about you, right? Share with me your thoughts, right? And ask that question for a truth, not just a filler, right? as we say, right? Like, I really do want to know what's your perspective on this.
We have Mondays and Wednesdays our accountability, and then we do that.
Yes.
You know, we have a situation, and there's how will you do it? You know, what is your opinion in this? And then we mastermind a little bit, and then I can see that we get benefit from that,
Yes.
because get other people's opinions and get
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't think of that, or like, oh, I thought this, and
Right.
then we'll do it. So I love that.
Yeah, thank you. So number 3, diverse teams fill in the experience gap, right? What tools are you missing in your tool belt that others could add? What would you say?
My mom used to say that nobody learns in somebody else's head. Okay?
Oh, I love that statement. That's a great statement. Write that down.
Say it again.
Write that
Nobody
down.
else, nobody learns in somebody else's head.
Truth. You have
So-
all this head knowledge, and
Yeah.
it's sitting in there, and you're not using it. Oh, that's a beautiful truth.
So, but
And
if you're
Sorry,
smart
it's the
enough to
bold age
learn
again.
from people's mistakes or experiences, you don't have to have the pain to go through it. But sometimes we think that we're smarter than the rest. That's not gonna happen to me because I'm better, I'm smarter.
Sure.
Oh, it's because this person didn't know what it was doing. Instead to say, you know what? Yes, it had this transaction, it was difficult. This is what I had to do, so I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to have an open mind and be willing to continue growing.
yes, yes, thank you. I appreciate that, right? How do you see diversity as a way to build a world-class team? How does it help you, right, build a team around you? And why would you want to build a team around you? Right now, if for any reason you could sit here in the real estate world and say, oh, I don't want a team. But there's so many benefits to a team, right? There's so, like, they just totally stretch your horizon and make you think and do things differently, and it's so fun now. Like, I can tell you honestly, 2 years ago, I was like, oh, the thought of hiring another person or including another person on my team was exhausting to me now. Now I'm like, yeah, I would love to hire or talk to another person or just interview another person because I get great ideas just from their interviews. I had 2 interviews a week ago, and one of them like immediately brought me just great contribution right then and there. I was like, oh, just in his 1 hour interview with me, like he gave me so much more to think about and ponder how to enhance my business, right? I was like, oh, that's so exciting, right? Because I just want to be able to create new opportunities for my clients. And again, right, we can only do so much ourselves. But when we have other people around us who are surrounding us, speaking into us, have different opinions, or doing it different ways, gives you the opportunity to be like, oh, yeah, I'll do it that way. That's a great idea, right? So what are your current barriers to engaging in a broader diversity? What do you think? What's holding you back, Monique, from building a team? A bigger team, a different team.
I think it always boils down to mindset, right? That's the beginning. I would say that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Listen, read the book Atomic Habits. Yeah, fantastic. I'm listening to it again this week. I finished it in like 2 days. I'm
Okay.
listening to it again.
Okay.
Right? We don't believe we can because we believe that we are who we are, right? And it is not who we are. It is in the habits that we are forming, the daily habits that we do. And if you just do 1% differently every day, by the end of the year, how much more of a percentage difference have you now done, right? falls back on Sophia's post that she posted this morning, right? Like, it's all in the habits. It's all in our habits. So you need to change the habits. Simple, little, minor habits. And what I love in Atomic Habits is he talks about it's not who you are, it's the systems. Those are what make you what you are, right?
We talked about that in the Power Hour this last week, and I gave the 66-day challenge to everyone.
Yeah,
and
oh, good
holding
for you.
everyone accountable to it to return this week.
Yeah.
Completing that new habit that's going to be that 1% that's going to change and make a difference every single day.
I love that.
So,
I love
yeah.
that. That's fantastic. I love that kind of stuff. Number 1, fear of conflict. What is so fearful about having conflict? Again, like, I thrive on conflict. It's like one of the bad things about me, honestly. Like, let's do this or that, right? I just, like, I'm excited to have engaging conversation and to have a different opinion. Even my marriage coach told my husband, like, she is going to egg you on to do it. Like, that's who she is. She enjoys that, right? So, I mean, what do you guys think? What is so fearful about having conflict?
Change.
Change.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the conflict is either the other person is going to change their opinion or you have to change yours.
Yes.
If you want to have a flow and grow.
Yes.
So somebody's going to have to change. It's
Yeah.
either you or the other person.
Yeah.
Okay? Because otherwise it's just a fight
Yeah.
or a conflict or a
Yeah.
problem. You're making it worse.
Yeah.
So it has to be a challenge to change. So when you have a conflict, is because it's a problem
Mm-hmm.
or it's an issue, and how you address it is gonna make it either smoother growth or something positive. But somebody has to change or something has to change. And sometimes I think is changing is the hard
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, as I said to you guys, my marriage coach brought it up with my husband and I, because he's always like, I gotta win. And I'm like, I gotta win. That's just the competitive spirit of both of us. And he said, why can't you both just have a different opinion and yet not win? Why do you have to change? Yes, you will change, because everything that happens to you changes you, right? Irregardless of positive or negative, it will change you, right? Because it's new information that's brought into your system, right? And so you decide what you're going to do with that information when you process it. But why do you have to see it as like, oh, it's going to change me for the wrong or the right? Just allow for it to, like, be part of who you are, right? So he says, John says right here, discuss this statement about having productive conflict to produce the best possible solution in the shortest period of time. Patrick L. I don't know how to say his last name. So how can a change in your belief of conflict enable you to invest in diversity? What do you guys think? Like, my husband and I kind of contemplated that, right? We were like, oh, okay. Why do we have to have like this, you gotta go my way and I gotta go his way? Why can't it just be okay? We're both going down the highway with two different opinions. Why isn't that okay? Why do you think people can't live in that world or choose not to live in that world? Or do you live in that world?
I think it's because, well, for me, I just go back to, in my household, one had to be right and one had to be wrong. So I saw it that way.
Yeah.
So you just internalize it and think that's just the way it's supposed to be. Somebody's gonna have to lose here, and it ain't gonna be me. You know what I mean?
So how did that work out? What do you think? Has that helped or has that hurt your family?
Well, it flows because the two are in agreement. It's like the yin and yang.
Yeah.
So it works.
Yeah.
But God forbid there was two of the same, that would have totally destroyed the
Correct.
family. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? To be able to live in a world where it's okay for one of us to say yes to Trump and the other one to say yes to whoever else that other person is, and to walk down that road together, right? In harmony, and yet be okay with the fact that we have two different opinions.
I think it's even enhanced nowadays with the social media and everything. God forbid you have a different opinion. It's like you're the enemy now.
Yes.
Instead of just coinciding. Like with Ellen when she was talking to, or at the game with the Bushes, and people ridiculed, and she's like, I don't believe everything he believes and he doesn't believe it, but why can't we just exist?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It to me, I think it's one of the most it's just one of the saddest things that's happening right now, right? It creates so much separation right now because people are so bound, determined to come from a perspective of I'm right and you're wrong, rather than a perspective of how do we blend? How do we work this together? How do we move life down the road together with different opinions, right? So what are the areas as a team you're afraid to discuss? What's an area you're struggling with on something that you have, maybe a teammate or, you know, and think about this, you guys, in the real estate world, even if you don't have a team per se, you still have a team, right? Because you have an escrow officer, you have a lender, you have a termite guy, you have this, and this. What is something that you need to discuss with one of your business partners, one of your teammates, that you just haven't had a discussion with them on it? And you're like, you know what? I just don't want to, I don't want to have that conversation. And yet, it would enhance your experience. Or maybe something with one of your wife or your husband, right?
Go ahead.
Nope, you're
Yeah,
up.
go ahead. I have a comment, but go ahead. You talk first.
For instance, sometimes we have our standards and we think that other person is not up to the standard, but we say, oh, well, if I say it, it's going to be a problem. So, but I just had that conversation this week and I was not looking forward to have it.
Oh.
And I thought, you know what? How they're supposed to read my mind and know what I expect, and so if I don't express it, it's never gonna be there.
Correct.
So as much as didn't wanna have the conversation,
Yeah.
I did. And I was like, oh my God. And it wasn't taken the way I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah.
And like, okay, like, oh my God. I was
You were
oh my God.
stressing all this time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that. Let me say this too. One of the things that I heard on the One Thing podcast, and I'd like you to share, is they said the story is being told irregardless of if you say it or it's in their head. So say it, right? Irregardless, because the story is being told. So it's best you tell the truth and just get it out. And I suggest you come from the perspective of, hey, I'm going to have this conversation with you, and I just want you to know that I just want this to enhance our relationship. I just want this to strengthen our business relationship, right? Yeah. So when you go from that perspective, right, that's going to give them a more receiving heart, right?
And I think to start the conversation, what you just said is key. Because it kind of lets the guard down a little bit, because I'm about to attack you, but I don't mean to really attack you.
Change your language. Change your language.
Exactly. Totally.
I feel like this animal just about to jump on me right now.
But I mean, that's.
But it's the truth, right?
Exactly. Well, that's why when somebody says, I don't want you to take this in the wrong light.
Yeah, I hate
this in
that
love or anything like that. So that way, they're at least are kind of all right. They're about to lower the boom on me in some fashion, but at least it's just to receive it in the manner. So in case I come off abrasive, that it's not received abrasively, if that makes sense. So I put on there discussions that will cause an uproar or a division, or fearing that it will be perceived and then received by others as harming the relationship.
Yes.
When in reality you're trying to enhance the relationship or even solve the problem, but to do that you're going to have the tough conversations sometimes.
Yes, yeah. I can tell you, I was on this one board for a period of about a year, and it was so hard for me to be on the board because that person always I felt like attacked me. Like always so heated, and it was the way they just presented themselves, right? Just so heated and so like, oh, intense with me. And I just, like, the energy was just too much for me, and I had to step off the board, right? Because it was exhausting me. And I have to always then go back to, like, I can't control their energy, and yet I can control my energy, right? And so I didn't have to step off that board. I chose to step off that board because it was draining me, because I just wasn't ready for that. I just couldn't handle that, right? And so there's no negative energy about the person that was providing. That's just the way they communicate. And so you just say, okay, that's how they communicate, right? You know, it's all in the communication skills. So let's review the chart below and discuss areas for improvement. Who would like to read the unhealthy conflict? And then right after, I would like to have someone give the healthy conflict. Back and forth. Who would read one and read the other? Let's have Amanda and Amy do it.
Okay, I'll do
We haven't heard much from them today.
Takes differences personally, dumps personal baggage, searches.
Wait. Let her say one
Oh,
after you
sorry.
say. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so pick one.
Say the first one again, Amy. Thank you.
Takes differences personally,
Sees differences impartially,
dumps personal baggage,
desires to know the person,
searches for retaliation,
searches for resolution,
results in hurt,
results in helpfulness,
seeks quick conclusions,
seeks understanding,
pulls back from the conversation,
becomes part of the conversation,
values self above solutions,
values solutions above self,
defends their territory,
opens up new territory,
makes the team worse.
makes the team better.
So what are you going to do to move towards healthy conflict? Did any one of you, like when you heard one of those, say, oh, I do that? Anyone?
Well, I think that there's a little bit, you know, it depends. Sometimes we are in the wrong side of
Mm-hmm.
the conflict, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm sometimes healthy. The more conscious we are, and then we're looking forward more positive.
Mhm.
But sometimes we stay in the negative.
Yes.
And for instance, for me, I tend to negative.
Uh-huh.
I know that, and I'm watching it.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody is negative, I had to stay away because I jump really easy on it.
Uh-huh.
So I recognize it and like, okay, if it's negative, I just had to part ways because I'm working so hard to move away from that. And if not, it just kind of go there,
Yes.
you know? It's like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's hard. I can tell you, I take differences personally.
That's me as well, yeah.
I take that one. Like, I'll own that one, man. You say something to me that makes me, I'm personal. It's personal. Right? Results seeks quick conclusions. I tend to be a little bit of a quick conclusion person. I tend to be that one too. Right? Because I'm like, come on, just move on with it. Let's get
Right,
done already.
right.
Jeez. My kid's been sick